Let's do one more question, then we'll hit the road.
Yeah, Senator Torian Small with CBS News. Thanks again for taking our questions. You've often talked about the big tent that this ticket is bringing in, support from Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Nikki Haley. All but one have campaigned for the ticket. Is there a reason why Nikki Haley hasn't been tapped to campaign? When was the last time you guys have talked to her about campaigning?
Well, look, first of all, we're thrilled to have Nikki Haley's support, and I'd love to go around and campaign with Nikki Haley, and maybe that'll happen. I mean, sometimes these things are just a consequence of scheduling. You've got to put multiple people in multiple places. So I don't know the answer for why she hasn't been out on the trail, but she's endorsed us. She spoke on behalf of Donald Trump at the RNC, and you're right that we've got Bobby Kennedy, Nikki Haley, Brian Kemp, Tulsi Gabbard. We're the party of common sense from the right and the left. But I really do think this is important, because you ask yourself, what candidate can unite Bobby Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Nikki Haley, and Brian Kemp? And the answer is the guy who stands for common sense. And I really think that's fundamentally what this election is about. You know, Kamala Harris, she's the candidate of being the policeman of the world. She's the candidate of starting wars, whereas Donald Trump is the candidate of ending wars. Kamala Harris is the candidate of censoring her fellow citizens. Donald Trump is the candidate of the First Amendment. That's why Bobby Kennedy, I think, is really behind us. And Kamala Harris is the candidate of rising prices, and Donald Trump is the candidate of the American dream. And thank God for that, because we're going to make him president in 10 days. So let me just leave you with one final thought, because we're having a lot of fun. And I had fun here today, and I hope you did too, but we're having fun in the service of giving the American people better leadership. We're running this campaign. We're fighting for the American people to have better leadership, because as much as I'm looking forward to November the 5th, and trust me, probably more than any person in this room, I am looking forward to beating Kamala Harris and the Democrats on November the 5th. We got to remember that we're fighting for our fellow citizens. We're not just fighting to beat Kamala Harris. We're fighting to make sure that our fellow citizens are able to live a good life in this country that all of us love. And I want you to, let me just give you a few stories. People that I've met on the campaign trail, people that I know, and how much they've suffered under the leadership of the last few years. Number one, there's a woman I met who's a retiree. And her husband is about to be a retiree, but unfortunately, he's still got a couple years where he's got to work, in part because they're raising grandchildren who were orphaned by the fentanyl crisis. So she's doing the best thing in the world, taking care of grandbabies that she wasn't expecting to take care of, and God love her for doing that. But she told me that in good times and bad, for 40 years, she and her husband had a tradition where they would do steak night on Friday night. And I'm not talking about going to a fancy steakhouse. I'm talking about going to the grocery store, buying a steak, grilling out, and having that be their special thing. And I think all of us know that it's these little rituals with friends and family that make life worthwhile in the first place. Well, you know what happened is she stopped doing steak night last year. And the reason she stopped doing steak night is because groceries got too unaffordable for her to continue on with this tradition that she had done for 40 years. And what a disgrace that is, that a woman who has worked hard and played by the rules her whole life is going without because we have a failed leader like Kamala Harris who's jacked up the price of groceries. I'm going to tell you about somebody else. I meet a lot of people on the campaign trail, and one woman in particular, she talked to me about not being able to afford the price of groceries. She told me about that for about 30 seconds, and then she told me, and Ms. King, I think you'll appreciate that she said a prayer for me every single night, and not just me, but my wife, and she knew the names of our 3 children, because even though she couldn't afford to put food on the table, she thought that it was important to pray for me and my family every single day. That reveals a generosity of spirit. Thank you. That reveals a generosity of spirit that exists in this country that we should all be grateful for, but we should remember that when we go to the polls on November the 5th. Because we should remember that there's a retiree out there who would like to be able to reestablish a ritual, a Friday night steak night with her husband, but she's not going to be able to do it unless we get better leadership. There's a woman out there with the generosity of spirit to pray for me and my children by name when she can't even afford the price of groceries. We've got the best country in the world, my friends. We've got the best people. We've got the best natural resources. We've got the most beautiful country anywhere in the world. But for our people to be unleashed into the next age, a golden age of American prosperity, we have got to fix the broken leadership in Washington, D.C. In 10 days together, that's exactly what we're going to do. God bless you all. Thank you.